Hey there, welcome to episode 2026-03-2001. I never start the show that way. Welcome to another episode of the Coffee Solo audio program. We're recording at 11:10 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time here in the Greater Vegas area on Friday, March 20th, 2026, which does indeed make this episode 2026-03-2001. Isn't that exciting? Pacific Daylight Time. It was so I thought for sure I would be messing that up a lot more than I have, but I don't think I have. Pacific Daylight Time. That means we're on the same time as Arizona, for what that's worth. Today I have come up with a title and I have a few items. I have two items outlined. I have a third item. I don't mean outlined. I mean like filled in an outline. And then a couple of other topics, just words, to like 3 words. So reminders. So we'll see what we get through tonight. Title: AI is not our friend, in case you were thinking otherwise. And so let's get started. So Coffee Solo, by the way, in case you are new to listening to these, was initially published exclusively on Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/Dan Hugo /posts. Eventually, and actually it was one evening, it was probably a Sunday evening, when Buy Me an Update, which was similarly published exclusively on buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo /posts. Buy Me a Coffee was failing. I couldn't upload. And not an important thing. Nobody was going to die if I didn't get this uploaded. But it was still frustrating because it was a reminder that anything else I'm working on, if you're relying on a third-party service to be functional and they decide all of a sudden, oh yeah, sorry, it's not working, maybe tomorrow, that can be weird. It's a reminder that you should always have backups. You should always have alternative means. You should always have some control, some agency, even some sovereignty over your workflows if they are important to you and all that stuff. So Buy Me a Coffee became, it's still the primary where I publish. I'm sorry. It's still the first place I publish Buy Me an Update. But the primary point of publication really is still Spotify, and that has to change once and for all, which I keep talking about. But it's not critical, but I really want to get into the posse mode, publish on your own server. Is it publish on your own server? POSSE. It's on IndieWeb. IndieWeb? Why is the connection reset? Sorry for being quiet. Why? I guess IndieWeb is not up right now. IndieWeb.net? No, IndieWeb.org, of course. That's weird. Anyway, IndieWeb.net, Posse, POSSE. If you're curious. Nope. Wow. What is going on here? Okay. IndieWeb. Oh, I'm spelling IndieWeb incorrectly. It's INDIE web. And then Posse, POSSE capitals. Publish on your own site. Syndicate elsewhere. Okay, that was a lot of work for that. I always say publish on your own server. Same idea. So I really want to move in that direction. So anyway, Ko-fi, similarly, they were not down or anything, but neither Ko-fi.com nor buymecoffee.com. I say Ko-fi, ko-fi.com. Hopefully you know that eventually or by now. They haven't had any problems, but they don't generate an RSS feed for an audio post. So I was like, maybe I don't want to publish here exclusively. So I basically started publishing first on these 2 websites, which I've had since March of 2003. That's when I signed up for LinkedIn, which we'll get to. March of 2021. So 5 years. LinkedIn, I signed up August 11th, 2003. That's a different thing. So I've had both of these coffee related sites for 5 years. I never really ask for money, but I basically use them as a point of contact. So you can always, it's another place, another vector that points hopefully back to me. So Ko-fi.com, I have, as I said, sketched out a couple of ideas to talk about. And the first one, which drives the design of the cover art, is AI is not our friend. The summary, which I have written ahead of time. A lot of layoffs with claims of AI adoption for efficiency and whatnot, giving the sense that reductions in force, a RIF layoffs, are for the transition to the future. So efficiency and whatnot. But AI is not that great. It might be getting worse. And some other stuff. So you're starting to hear this from various people that what they're telling you is not exactly true. So let's first run through the links real quick. If you are listening to this via Ko-fi.com, the first link is not there. But otherwise, first available at Ko-fi.com/DanHugo/posts. That's where you can find all of the Coffee Solo episodes from their original posting location. Coffee Solo has its homepage at my vanity website, danhugo.com. That is yet another personal site that is in dire need of beautification and functionality implementation. So, yeah, that's the way it is. And the profile page linking everything as usual, buymeacoffee.com/danhugo. You can find all of the links to everything there. So that way I don't have to have so many links per episode to connect everything. And there you go. So yeah, thousands of lost jobs. I think, well, I don't know if this one's related because Mark Zuckerberg is just dumb, but they're laying off like 30,000 people or something crazy from their metaverse project. Maybe, I don't know. Amazon, either Amazon or AWS, probably AWS, is laying off another few tens of thousands of people. And Oracle and Microsoft and Google, everybody's laying off these multiple tens of thousands of people. And they keep saying, well, the jobs they're doing can be done by AI now. What's his name? Jack Dorsey, Twitter guy, also owns the company Block, I believe it is. And they're laying off 4,000 people from the Cash App platform. I do use the Cash App card when I get groceries, pretty much. I'll tell you what's cool about the Cash App card. If you transfer money from your checking account, it does an ACH transfer, and it does it in a single day. So it doesn't wait like 3 or 4 days, but you have the funds available immediately, and then it will transfer like the next day. So it'll be pending from your checking account. But the nice thing about that is I just use it. So they used to offer a discount for groceries. You get 5 or 10, probably 10%, I think it was. They used to have a discount for Smith's, which is the grocery store across the street. So I would go there. Hey, why not? Free a couple percent. But those, they've made the little promotional discount, whatever thingy is very wonky. I don't even know. And I don't care how they work because it's not worth it. But the nice thing is that I do use the card, use my Cash App card, cash card. I don't know what it is. I do use it at Smith's. And that's basically the only place I use it. And you can send me money on my cash card, by the way, $Dan Hugo, but that's neither here nor there. So I use it to purchase groceries. That's about it. And a long time ago, living in Vegas, I realized, or also traveling around the world, like you don't want to have your credit cards go missing or be compromised. So I had cards that I would never use. Well, I do have cards today. I have cards that I never use outside of like automated transactions, like periodic. I have cards that I never use except for groceries. I have cards that I never use except for some online payments of things, subscriptions and whatnot. So that way, if any of these get compromised, and again, if you're going to be traveling, you don't want to find out when you're heading to the airport that what? All of my credit cards have been used in Guam or something. So I basically compartmentalize everything. So the Cash App card, whatever, is useful for that purpose. But anyway, he laid off 4,000 people, and I totally misleading headline. Oh, he's already hiring people back. He hired 4 people back, so that doesn't really count. But everybody that I think they interviewed 7 people so far, secretly maybe, were these former Block employees. Said, yeah, they basically brought us in when we were hired years ago, everything's fine. Then AI starts to come on the scene, like, oh, see if you can use AI to improve anything. And then, and this is my recollection of the interviews that were posted. Then it became, okay, yeah, let's start like a more concerted effort. Let's start using AI for things. Let's see what we can accomplish. And then it became, you have to use AI a minimum of whatever, right? Probably measured in tokens. So you have to start accomplishing some tasks. And then apparently recently it was, okay, so we know which tasks can be automated successfully. So now we're going to start reducing workforce, and we can spread the workload across the people that remain, and they can use the AI tools. This was an interesting insight. Most of the other companies that are laying people off and claiming they're moving into an AI transition into the future roadmap kind of thing. So, we don't need as many people because AI can do their work. But what you're really finding, the scuttlebutt, is that they're finally clearing out all the extra hiring they did in the pandemic lockdown days and right after, when money was cheap. So they're like, oh, we have all this money, let's hire a bunch of people, and then we can recover from the pandemic slowdowns. We can make sure all the rich people are a little bit richer, and everything's fine. So they have a ton of extra employees. So you've seen I'm just going by what I've read. I have no insights. But then you see people leaving because they don't want to return to the office. Is it RTO? Return to office. Used to be WFH, work from home. And so that was another way to like, hey, you don't want to work here anymore, right? We got to get rid of 80,000 people. And if you just lay off 80,000 people, that gets people's attention. So if you start letting go a couple tens of thousands here, you got to return to the office. No more working from home. So you're welcome to take a retirement or whatever early departure package in lieu of. So that was one way. And now it's, we're using AI, so we're reducing our workforce by 50,000 or whatever it is. I think it was Amazon that laid off, a few tens of thousands a couple of months ago, and now another, I think it's 30. I mean, I could look, I guess, since we're here. And I know you probably love it when I take a break and start typing. Amazon layoffs. 16,000 in January. There's more. There was more for this month. It's a total of 45,000, but that's across multiple companies. 16,000 in 2026. That must be the same ones. Oh, okay. So they laid off 14,000 in October of 2025 and 16,000, which were announced in January. So they're probably coming due, probably happening now. So that's 30,000 people. And there have been layoffs prior, I think in 2024. So yeah, you're starting to see this stuff. And so they just have another excuse, and it sounds better to your investors. Like, ooh, they're going to be saving money. That goes to more profitability, which could go to a dividend or something that I will make money by being an investor. So the stock market will appreciate the embrace of future tech. But really it's because they were spending too much money on workforce. That's the allegation. So we'll see what happens. But I will tell you this, what I'm hearing, what I'm reading, what I'm seeing from code YouTubers, the nerdy crew that I kind of identify with, they are hearing from their peers, or they're experiencing it firsthand in some cases. And then more scuttlebutt from the likes of Amazon and whatnot, is that, and Amazon had another outage recently, so I don't even know how many they've had or what, but because they're having their spec-driven AI tool, which I believe is called Kiro, Kiro. They're having that tool write or deal with some of their automation of their infrastructure for AWS. So AWS had another outage recently, or I was hearing about it recently. There was one in December. I thought there was one more recently. Yeah, that towards the end of February, maybe. Yeah. So anyway, they're having problems, and they're because the AI is not that good. And I'm hearing more and more, like some people are, I've automated everything. I don't even touch a computer anymore. I can sit on the beach and have a cocktail while Claude, or who else? Claude or Codex or whatever, right? So all these names are so dumb. They're trying to humanize them. So yeah, it does all my code. But there's, if you've never heard the Primogen, I think he's an older, I think he's probably about 10 or 15 years younger than me, but he's been around for a while. Very energetic YouTuber, does live coding, does live conversations, walks through different articles and blog posts about the coding industry and technology and whatnot. An interesting character, but he has a really grounded view. And I was just watching something he did about 2 days ago, I think. Yet another, like, you know what? I've tried the vibe coding. And I think the one I saw was about the recent Amazon outage. He's like, you know what happens? I may be joining two different videos because this one was like a 12-minute or something, just a quickie. He sometimes does an hour, but a brief commentary. He's like, you know what happens? You're going to get rid of all your junior coders. Maybe the senior coders will get burned out because they're tired of reviewing slop code. But when you get rid of a ton of your workforce, that means a ton of people who are familiar with all this code that's been around for a while aren't there anymore. So you have no memory. You have no institutional memory of how things work. So yeah, sure, you can have your AI go through the code, and who knows if it's going to start rewriting things or deleting things. So you got to keep an eye on that. And then the AI is going to write some code, but no person has any familiarity with that. So what you're seeing is AI is driving a wedge between a memory of how things work, right? If you've ever worked at a place for more than maybe a year, oh yeah, I remember when we were, and then there are people that are 20 years. Remember we were working on that project and this and that, and all the things I learned along the way, and all the things the team learned along the way, and all the things that they're familiar with from fixing bugs and adding features over the years. So you have this institutional memory that's built up organically. So, and what you end up with as well is people who care about the project that they're working on, or projects. So AI has none of these things. AI has very explicitly a token memory, right? It parses through the code and builds up its representation of the code and maps it into whatever it's familiar with and whatever. So it could come up with some sort of an architectural diagram perhaps, but it doesn't care. There's no emotion attached to anything it's doing. So you lose that engagement with the history of the project. It doesn't have to be code. It's code more recently and more lately. But as things, we can design airplanes with AI. Yeah, I bet you can. I'm drinking some ginger ale with some apple cider vinegar in it at the moment. So anyway, there are people that are gung-ho. They will get very excited about headlines and, a 20 agents spent 3 weeks and they built a C compiler. But the problem is that AI knows the stuff it's been trained on, and it built a version of an open source compiler called LLVM. And it's like, well, you had your code build, quote unquote, from scratch, something that you trained it on. So if you teach a junior engineer, a junior programmer, how to build a compiler by having that student walk through a compiler, and then you say, okay, build a compiler from scratch. If your student is a human, it's like, oh, okay, I don't remember every single character that I just ingested when learning about this compiler, but your AI model does. So when you say, hey, build a C compiler, and it builds a C compiler that's reminiscent of the code that it was trained on, but it also doesn't work, that should be very telling. And that's one of the anecdotes from the recent couple of months. So yeah, there are people that take these headlines. I think some of your management types are like, oh yeah, there are people that haven't touched a computer in weeks. No lines of code being written by humans anymore. Okay, so we'll see how that goes. So I am very bearish on AI replacing me or people of my profession, or even people that are adjacent, right? I think there's a human factor that will not be recognized until it is removed. And then we'll start seeing, and I'm going to liken this, although it's very different, but it's probably also very similar. I'm going to liken this to let me think, it was the late 90s. I was working at Philips, and I was building a website for something. And one of my colleagues, and I can't remember his name, but he was from India, And he said, hey, I have a team of website builders in India if you want them to do some work for you. And I was like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah, I'll have them do a quote. They'll do a quote for free. Just tell me what you're looking for and I'll send it to them. So I jotted down like 5 pages, your basic introductory business card website, how, about, contact, a little blurb on what we're working on, that kind of stuff. So whoever contacted me with a zip file of examples. I looked through the examples. I'm like, huh. And they're like, yeah, $1,500. And this is in the 90s, $1,500. I was like, these are literally, and at the time, template websites were very popular. So like templates.com or something. Like these are literally website examples that I've seen everywhere. There's absolutely nothing creative or interesting about these. They're literally boilerplate templates. So I'm like, what you've done is delivered something that you want me to pay you for, but you spent 0 seconds caring about this. You literally copied a couple of example templates, or maybe you have them in your library that you have basically acquired, but there's nothing creative. There's nothing interesting. I am not an aesthetic person. I'm like, I could do all these. There's nothing interesting about these. There was no human factor. And I think I've done this before. I will compare this to the Fly with Jeff Goldblum, where he's saying transporting, for example, steak between his pods. The computer had no notion of what a steak is. It reassembled it in approximately the correct way, but it had no emotional connection to what steak is supposed to taste like and whatnot. So when he had the experiment and Gina Davis tastes this, it tastes weird. Ugh. Right, because the computer doesn't understand it. It's just doing it. So I think we're kind of in the same boat for the near future anyway. So if we assume that we got another 5 years of this, maybe, we'll have to see what happens. I think, so the Primeagen came up with this, and I think this is going to be the way it will work better for everyone. And this was a couple weeks ago. He said, you know what I've settled on? And I have to say, I vibe coded once and I did not care for it. So it's really not for me at this time. The code that was generated in this little experiment didn't work at all. So I was like, oh, that was fun. And while I could flip through the code and see and try to debug it or something, I don't think I learned the same as if I try to write this myself, as I have been doing for 30 years. So Primeagen says, I have found that instead of having an AI tool develop code for a project that I'm working on directly, I might have it build some example experiments. What if we try it this way? What if we try it that way? He's like, it will spit out code all day like that. And I can try it out and I can see which one seems to fit into the architecture better. I can see if there's a performance going. So what you can do is spit out a few experiments very quickly that could accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, but might not fit into your design or overall architecture, but they will get the point across okay, doing it this way is probably the way to do it. And then you can start from that as a starting point and actually integrate this design idea into the code that you actually write. So the two benefits are, one, you get a much faster sort of inkling of which one might be better because you have a bunch of examples that just spring up quickly. But you also, when you integrate this code into your existing code base, or you take the experiment and turn it into something you would actually be willing to ship in production, you now learn how your code works with a starting point provided by the AI. So I could have done that with my Vibe code. In fact, I still have the code written somewhere. I have the code it wrote somewhere. So, and I'll tell you what that was for in a second. But anyway, so I think all the AI hype right now is really aimed at stockholders. There's some dramatic concerns about the AI bubble bursting, which I think will happen because there's way too much circular accounting going on. I believe this is an allegation. I don't know factually, but I think this is what has happened just from the press releases. So we have a company here called TensorWave. Their servers are actually based somewhere in the eastern part of the US. But TensorWave got a lot of hype because AI company, the biggest safe investment of any startup in Vegas or something like that. It's like $100 million. I think they got $100 million from AMD. And then guess what they bought with their $100 million? They bought uh, the AI GPUs from AMD. So TensorWave got to be one of the early, like, oh, we're an entirely AMD based data center for your AI compute needs and all that. And so now TensorWave is integrated into the AMD AI developer platform. So you can get free credits. I think it's like $100 in free credits, which I believe is like 50 hours or so. I literally just looked at this the other night, 2 nights ago maybe. And I was like, oh, I wonder if that's TensorWave. And I found eventually that TensorWave is at least one of their hosting platforms for this. So basically, TensorWave gets to say, oh, look, we got a $100 million investment from AMD. And then AMD gets to say, hey, we just sold $100 million worth of GPUs to TensorWave, an exclusive AMD partner in data center, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, good times. Yeah, I'm not worried about AI. For Innovate for Vegas Foundation, our contributor policy at this time, I really need somebody to have a look at it and tell me what they think. A human, not an AI. But our policy as is, the contributing, like, here's what we expect from people who do try to add to our different initiatives. Like, you have to do it yourself. And here's what the rationale is. We're not just code. Innovate for Vegas is innovation, not coding. So the innovation can come in many forms. And at some point, let's suppose you have 3 people volunteering their time, effort, and expertise. One of them is a coder that's going to use Claude or something. One of them is a coder who is not going to use Claude. They're going to do it the old-fashioned way. Maybe it's going to be me, right? I'm just going to write code as I've been writing it for 30 years. Little whippersnappers. And then a third person is going to build, like, not the user interface, but like some physical components, right? Maybe we're building something that has like a Raspberry Pi component and it needs an enclosure and it's going to have some buttons and whatnot. And this third person is going to be like, oh yeah, I can do some prototyping. I got my Arduinos and Raspberry Pis at home. So yeah, I'll build a little thing. I can 3D print an enclosure. Okay. So guess who does the least amount of work? The AI coder. Probably, arguably, the person that does the most work is the hardware person who's mechanically manipulating things like the enclosure build and the buttons and maybe some soldering and whatnot. So now we get to give some credit. We have to attribute the work to the volunteers. Did they all do the same amount of work? To me, I think if you're volunteering your time, it's not about, I got to be more efficient. I got to try to do the least amount of work possible. Because we're not a commercial company. We're not trying to ship software or hardware products. We don't have a delivery timeline and all that. We're here to learn. We're here to appreciate the volunteer time that's being contributed and so on. So I think there's just a huge gap that we would just avoid, right? Like, what do we do with this and that? You know what? Just, if you're going to volunteer your time, why don't you volunteer your time? Like, be a part of this as a person, not as a keyboard jockey using AI tool. Oh, I had 25 agents write all of our code last night, so now we don't have to do anything. Like, well, you just undermine the entire purpose of our organization. So it kind of makes me laugh. I'm not going to spend too much time arguing with people about that. Like, go write your Claude code and see what you want to come up with. Who knows? I've pretty much run out of gas for LinkedIn. I know I've talked about this a few times. I'm trying to get my noses all stuffed. I'm trying to get the word out about the Smarter Smart City Challenge. And LinkedIn is for the most part a combination of Instagram for self-promotion. Like, there's a tremendous number of women from India, some from Europe, and I've literally read comments are like, oh, LinkedIn is way better than Instagram. Okay. So they're just posting selfies at the beach, selfies out to dinner, selfies having a coffee, selfies working on their laptop. Okay. So great. And then I went from 2 to 1 million followers in 3 weeks. And you're like, look at that. And then it's a lot of, so you're basically promoting here's a picture from when I was at a conference, and here's a picture of the sign with me standing by it, and here's a picture of all my friends. And or like here in Vegas, you'll get a lot of people saying thank you, like, oh, thank you for this agency that hosted us for this gathering. And so it's a picture of people at a table and their logos, whatever. So, okay, fine. So it's become Instagram. Got to post your selfies and your friend pictures and all that. And it's also a follow and forget engagement platform. So we have a page Smart City Vegas, because the website is smart-city.vegas, and it will be smarter.smart-city.vegas. So Smart City Vegas has, should I look, 100 and something followers now. Smart City Vegas has 157 followers. Now, I create a picture because pictures get attention and whatnot. So I post a picture that's like, hey, we're trying to reach out to educators so we're not going to contact students because they're under 18, right? So we're not going to go trolling around trying to talk to young people. Well, we would like to engage with the educators, and then you can talk to your students. So you can talk about it in your classroom and whatnot, about how to be a part of an innovation effort at a city scale. We have all year, so you don't have to do it like over a weekend, or it's not going to interrupt your class time. It's between now and January. It could be over the summer, all kinds of stuff, right? Zero interaction. So there might have been some likes, but I don't think so. And I've tagged teachers and whatnot. Nothing. So LinkedIn is only good for the initial, like if somebody follows a page, oh, I didn't know this existed. And then they will immediately forget about it. So to me, it is an absolute waste of time. Similarly, connecting with people on LinkedIn is ultimately the same idea, which is, oh, okay, I've connected with you on LinkedIn. And now you're reaching out to me with a LinkedIn direct message. Oh, I'm never going to respond or even read that. So that's what I've been running into. So it's kind of the last straw because, as I mentioned earlier, I signed up for LinkedIn in August of 2003. So it's been 23 years, coming up on 23 years. When I hit the 20-year point, I stopped really using LinkedIn. So I'd post an image every month of a European exit icon, like I'm heading out, and it was green with black artwork. It was a black icon on a green background. Then it became black on a red background for the final October, November, December of 2023, and then 2024, basically not posted anything anymore. But I have pages because like Innovative Vegas Foundation has a page. And we have 900 and something followers. Same problem. Nobody actually engages with anything, so we don't get any value for that. So at this point, I'm really thinking, why bother doing this? I think there's no answer for that. I honestly think it was when Microsoft acquired LinkedIn, they basically went, oh, this could be another way to inject ourselves into the mainstream with all this social media silliness, but we'll be the professional website. And supposedly they have like 1 billion people using it. I don't think most of those people are worth it. I do have an idea for a successor. It's a return to the semantic web. I actually call it SEM cards, semantic cards. The semantic web has explicit connection data. It's a little bit more flexible. You can extend what your vocabulary is. If you ever look up FOAF, friend of a friend, FOAF, that's an example. And you'll see articles like the social web we could have had. And it's basically you own the data. There's no central authority. You can post friend of a friend files on your website. So you can discover people. It's basically like a web ring, if you're familiar with those from way back when. But it can be a lot more detailed than that. So if you make semantic data business cards, I don't know if you heard that, Production by the Street. Semantic data business cards, you can actually encode all kinds of information that you can be sharing with people or be found through search using some more explicit search schemes. There's a whole search language for semantic data called Sparkle, SPARQL. So you can actually do some interesting things. And because you're not beholden to a commercial entity that's trying to monetize everything, like, oh, if you want to search, you better have a pro account. I don't think LinkedIn does that. I don't know what their search tools are like if you are a paying member. I've never given them a dime, nor would I want to. But I think, because if you have your entire database of contacts, you can search however you want. But if there is, and so the idea with that I'm thinking is that you would be able to create your own database of friends, right? So anybody that has published their their contact information for themselves and then anyone they know. And then you can spider, right? Find other people and you build up your database. And then if you want to search it, you can search it any way you like. That's the beginning. That's how social network in that scheme would work. Like anyone can build up their own database. You publish a database because you're only using publicly available data and you're publishing it as standard form. So we'll talk about this more in another time. But anyway, so I'm kind of leaning in like, maybe I've had enough of LinkedIn. And then I keep saying with everything I've described in recent years, like, why are we not embracing the things that worked from the old days? Like, people still use email. That's been around for a while. Well, I'm not going to pick on this person. So somebody said, why are we still using email? Why don't you use the blockchain? And I was like, why are you talking? Why are you talking right now? Yeah, the blockchain is going to solve everything eventually. So the semantic web, OWL, which I cannot remember what that means. Ontology, something language. What does that mean? I'm going to look it up. OWL, ontology. The web ontology language, which is, of course, OWL. They should call it the ontology for the web language. So it's a totally standard language defining sharing and reasoning over complex knowledge graphs on the semantic web. So you can come up with like, oh, I work for these companies and I have these credentials and everything. You can do something very similar to what LinkedIn has done, but you have control over all the data. You decide what you want to publish and when and how and where. And then we can adopt new things like ActivityPub, so that say somebody, I want to follow Dan Hugo's profile, business card, using Mastodon or something. And so that if I ever change something, or if I want to broadcast some sort of an update or a status, I can just do that. You don't have to log into LinkedIn and all this stuff. So, I mean, there's a time and a place for private networks. And that's one of the LinkedIn things, like, oh, we create these silos. So you have to be logged in and you have to be following people and you want to publish something private and all. Okay, they've just made you locked in to their platform and their methodologies and their privacy schemes and all this crap. And it becomes extra work for you. And now, because of the algorithm making decisions, most of those people I mentioned, the Instagrammers, they're like, oh, here's the best way to gain followers. Here's the best way to get people to see your content. Like, you have to play this game with people. There are some people that love it. There are some people that's what they live for. There are some people that seem to love it and that they write content for LinkedIn that suggests that they live for it. But I think a lot more people, and I'm encountering them in other places, that are like, oh, LinkedIn's garbage. I'm like, yes, you are correct. So that's another log on my fire of things that I will have to get to. What else is going on? My neighbor upstairs is being extra noisy. So if we hear noisy Raymond, that's the way it is. There's a war in Iran. Have you heard about that? I'm not optimistic about the next year or two, with the midterms coming up, with all sorts of shenanigans planned for messing with elections, with so much confusion about what's really happening, what press is reporting which things. I don't even know if foreign press is still being accurate. There have been so many people impacted just in the last 3 weeks with energy prices going up. And the big thing that people kind of mention in passing is the availability of fertilizer. So you're looking at potassium compounds. And if you ever look into this, it's actually quite fascinating. Here's the deal in a nutshell. I'm not going to give you a whole treatise on this. The United States has a policy. If you encounter an island of birds, for example, or bats, so there's a guano, right? You know what that is? Fertilizer. So the United States will declare ownership of an island if it's covered with bird guano, for example. Why is this? Because that's a great source of these potassium compounds that you use to make fertilizer. Guess what one of the major exports from Ukraine is? If you guess potassium compounds, you would be correct. Apparently fertilizer, I think liquid fertilizer components are shipped through the Suez? What is that? The Suez Canal? Anyway, the Strait of Hormuz. Strait of Hormuz. Is that the Suez Canal? Persian Gulf. Where's the Suez Canal? Where did that enter my mind? Where's the Suez Canal? Anyway, so it's not only oil. Oil is obviously important. Where's the Suez Canal? Oh, yeah, that's by Egypt. Okay. Did somebody ship something through the Suez Canal recently to get around the Strait of Hormuz from the Persian Gulf? Maybe. Anyway, so fertilizer is critical for agriculture. If you're growing, if you're farming, the United States has done a lot of farming of its farmland. So to replace nutrients in the soil, fertilizer is very important. That is also true in other places. So if fertilizer becomes unavailable or becomes extremely expensive, you start to impact food supplies over seasons, right? Because once you miss a harvest season, you're still going to have to enrich the soil with fertilizers and whatnot. So you're going to have to acquire this stuff. There will be a backlog. So there could be a food situation if the war is not resolved quickly. Something to think about. But the other thing is the American hegemony is kind of done. Everybody's like, no, we're not going to help, which is sort of comical if it wasn't us that are getting the stink eye from the world. But yeah, I think I'm personally not happy about this. There was a joke that somebody made. I can't remember who it was. He said, well, the Trump campaign did say a vote for Kamala Harris is a vote for an attack on Iran. I mean, that's subtle, but it is sort of humorous, I suppose. So yeah, just everything is very frustrating right now to watch because I think The Atlantic has an article from yesterday, a hostile corporate takeover of the United States that nobody voted for, maybe. Let me see. The hostile takeover. Yeah, the hostile corporate takeover of an entire country. So it's now he's talking about the article is talking about Venezuela, but it's very easy to see how this is creeping into the U.S. as well. So kind of interesting. Very, very frustrating though. Like it's making me tired right now. It's making me tired to think about like we're only what is it? March 1 year and 2 months, right? January 20th inauguration, then 1 year later, and then February, March, right? So 14 months. So we're 14 months in. Just imagine what has happened. And sort of humorously, except not really, when Pam Bondi, our Attorney General, was testifying before Congress a few weeks ago, one of her answers was, well, the stock market's the Dow is at 50,000, which is not an answer to any question they asked, but she felt compelled to provide that information. And I checked the Dow actually yesterday. I was curious, or earlier today, because it's still March 20th, Friday. She's already wrong. It's down to 45,000. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I think I saw some headline that there's a suggestion that people work from home if they can. So that sort of undoes the whole RTO. I know you're supposed to be back in the office, but if you still work here, can you stay at home and save some gasoline? So yeah, I don't know if that was in Europe or the U.S. Even the misrepresentations of how the oil market works. We make enough oil for ourselves. We don't have to worry about it. Well, while we are an exporter nation of oil, we're also an importer nation. And the way capitalism works, or the way oil markets work, you sell at the price, not for local convenience. So oil prices can still go up, even though the United States is refining oil into petroleum products with the best of them. So yeah, I think this is where you really start to see where propaganda, lack of good information, lack of knowledge, lack of any sensibility from the general population really can start wreaking havoc. Like, first of all, we all let this happen. And by we all, I mean 49% of the electorate that actually voted for the current administration. but all the Epstein administration, I think it is. But there's also just a lack of awareness of how economies work, how geopolitics works. And I'm not saying I'm a geopolitician. I'm not saying I'm an oil marketplace person, but a little bit of reading can get you a long way. So I really wish more people would take that up as a hobby, perhaps. Do a little glance through the, what is this? Where is the Strait of Hormuz? Like you noticed just moments ago, I was like, where is the Suez Canal anyway? Oh, it's Egypt. Egypt is on the west bank of the Suez Canal. So that'll orient you. And it feeds into the Mediterranean. So that's good to know. The Persian Gulf, you need to exit the Persian Gulf through the Straits of Hormuz. So having some sensibility, like where things are when they come up in the news, and why is more of this stuff not plotted on, for example, Google Earth, right? If Google Earth embeds, can you embed Google Earth? I don't know if you can, but when these topics are coming up, like whole entire timelines of what happened over the last 24 hours, the last 7 days, whatever, could be plotted on something that gives you some sense of where things are happening and when. I mean, that's a thing right there that somebody should be working on. Maybe that's part of Unibits, but anyway, that's something that's been, and I do have my structured apathy approach. So it's like, I can't do anything about this. So I'm not going to get all bent out of shape, but some of this stuff is just comically clownish. Speaking of, I think I've mentioned this before, Candace Owens, total nut, but she has a presentation and production value. And I do appreciate that she maintains a timeline. So when she's going over her conspiracy theory, pulling in all manner of weird facts and associations and whatnot, she's presenting it in a structured way. Now, here's the good and the bad of that. I've talked about this before. The good news is that is a useful way to present information. I literally just referred to, like, why are we not plotting the events of the war in Iran on a Google Earth presentation so that people have a general idea where things are? Like, oh, I'm over here and that's happening over there. But how is that going to affect me, right? So you can start tying in normal oil shipping routes and how those have fallen off, right? Oh, the Google map, Google Earth visualization or illustration of the shipping routes dwindling over 3 weeks could be useful. But yeah, you get, I think telling stories is interesting, but not sufficient. So making use of the tools we all have at our disposal now, I think, why are we not doing that? So that's the good news. The bad news is that if you are nuts, and I think I've said this before, maybe on this program, but Candace Owens was friends with Charlie Kirk. I'll give that. I'll stipulate that. I don't know. There's been really, maybe she was in love with him or something. Don't care. The fact is they were friends. They were still in communication, I suppose, occasionally up until, a couple days within the big event, the negative big event. So I think it's fair to grant a certain amount of latitude in, like, hey, I want to find out who killed my friend, and I'm not satisfied with the investigation. Okay. I mean, the JFK assassination has fueled, 53 years of conspiracy theories and countless books and presentations and whatnot. So she's basically doing it on a much smaller scale over a very short period of time, relatively speaking. So you're like, okay, what are you going to do? Hopefully she feels better. Hopefully other people feel better. Hey, they may find something. Who knows? But then when it starts turning into total insanity, like the B people and the French Foreign Legion and tying in the Macrons and all accusations against Israel, the government of Israel, or possibly some people, I don't even know. Then it becomes nuts, totally insane. And then every once in a while she'll inject something like, the Nuremberg trials were all fake, right? And you're like, where did that come from? where did this bit of wisdom get injected? And if they even went to the moon, which is flat, no, it isn't. You can tell because the Earth is flat, so the moon has to be round. Just all this stuff that kind of creeps in and colors what she's saying into like a weird, like, wait a minute, what was this? And the fact that there's something else annoying. So that's the good and the bad, right? She's good at presenting, and I think more people should get better at presenting information that is complicated, even complex, using tools of modernity. So when you're reporting news, any local news or national or international news, we have maps, we have timelines. We're still publishing news as if we're writing it on a piece of recycled paper that's going to get ink on your hands, right? Like, so the publishing scheme of news, of sharing information, really hasn't evolved into the tools that are available, in my opinion. So she's doing a better job than some at relating her story and her findings using some tools of modernity. Now she's, basically using I don't know if it's a Google Doc with a just a timeline, right? It's something. I think, there are better ways to do that. But on the other hand, as I said, she's also kind of nuts. So what she's trying to tell people, she's creating her own rails to then go off of. And now her attacks on Erica Kirk, who I do not know. I did not really care for the message, and I believe some of the beliefs, I guess I could say, that I'm aware of, because I really didn't track Charlie Kirk at all. So everything that I know about him suggests that he really had some things that he believed in that I do not. I mean, I really haven't looked into him in a while. But so she's totally going to town on Erica. I don't know Erica, don't really care. But it is, because she's getting millions of views from this. Now, here's the problem. And, everybody has to make money. But they're both, Erica is monetizing, Candace is monetizing. Like, everybody's making a buck off this, and it's a little creepy. And I got to say, just one final comment, because I don't want to spend too much time on this. I already spent like 8 minutes. I pay money because I watch a lot of YouTube. So I have YouTube Premium. Why is it that I get to not have YouTube ads, but everybody now is like, oh, I will still do ad reads. So whether you have YouTube Premium or not, you're getting ads. And I don't think that's cool. I think that's really frustrating. So you get used to fast forwarding. Basically with Candace, this is a type of thing that I let it play while I'm doing other things. I'm not sitting there, let me rewind and let me hear it and let me see the timeline. I've seen the timeline on screen a couple times, because I happen to be near. I honestly, it's almost like a, Daily Show at this point, or Weekend Update on Saturday Night Live. Like, they're just bits now. Okay, guys, yesterday we found out that anteaters are, you're like, what? Wait, what? Okay. And then the stuff with the Macrons, it'll be interesting to see how that lawsuit goes down. Everything's performative. She's like a streamlined version of Alex Jones, which is insane. But speaking of YouTube, before I forget, so here's the deal with YouTube. I publish my audio programs through Spotify for Creators. They host the audio file. They create and maintain the RSS feed. That's pretty much the bare minimum. And then I have YouTube pull from the RSS feeds to download the audio files using their podcast feature. So then they automatically create a video with one single frame on it. And that's the YouTube post of the podcast is a one frame video. So it's basically the audio with one frame repeated for however long. There are two things that are problematic about this approach. One, which is generally more important, if you publish a podcast to YouTube and you're not a premium user, so I have a premium, YouTube Premium, but I do not have YouTube Premium on the phone that I bring with me to the gym. That why I don't is it's a minor thing, but I have a couple of Google accounts, so some are over here, some are over there. So when you go to the gym, or when I go to the gym, unless you have YouTube Premium, you cannot have YouTube videos play when the screen goes off, background play. So now you can't listen to the podcast while you're on the treadmill or doing your thing. So then it becomes less useful unless you're sitting at your desk or whatever. So not totally ideal. Like, I wouldn't replace Spotify, Apple, Amazon, whatever. I wouldn't replace Libsyn, Podbean, whatever. There's millions of them. So I wouldn't replace that with YouTube podcasts, but it's another way to reach people. The other thing, though, which is ridiculous, When YouTube pulls the latest RSS entry, creates the video, all that happens just fine. And this is a problem I've mentioned before, and I found people on Reddit talking about it from a year ago at this point. For some reason, and I don't know what it is, because I did actually have occasion to check a before and after. I'll tell you what that means. So YouTube will grab the RSS entry, the most recent one. It will generate the video, which is really just the audio, publishes it according to my settings, right? Publishes it as a public available piece of content for anybody to see. And then some amount of time later, usually once, but this week it happened twice with it's either Quaggling Sand or Let's Innovate for Vegas. So at least once, it's almost 100% chance. Occasionally it's actually 0 times. The video will be marked as private automatically, some unknown reason. So I got to go and switch it back to public. It's easy to do, but it's also should be unnecessary. Google has been, or YouTube, I guess, has been unwilling to admit or call it a bug or something that has to be fixed. It's like, yeah, that's the way it is. It makes no sense. There was a theory that for some reason, that wherever the source RSS feed is, so at Spotify, that something was being updated or changed, and so YouTube would pick that up as an updated entry. So instead of updating the entry in place, it would do whatever it thinks it has to do, and then it marks it as private, possibly as a way to inform the channel owner that, like, hey, something happened, except there's no notification corresponding to this. So it just sort of happens. Ridiculous. So I actually was able to, because I wanted to like so I published some episode of something. This was a couple weeks ago. Published the episode, grabbed the RSS feed as it's being imported and processed by YouTube. So I kind of kept an eye on that. It happens within 10 minutes or something, right? The next time it reads the RSS feed. So then I said, okay, I have the RSS feed as it was read by Google. So I wanted to make sure something didn't happen in the interim, right? So, okay, processing RSS feed. I pulled the RSS feed for myself, saved it. And then once the episode was marked private, a couple hours later, pulled the RSS feed, identical, nothing changed. Okay, so now I don't have any theories. But my one vibe coding experience, because I have 3 ways to deal with this. One, manually, which is a pain, because if I forget or if it happens when I'm not at my computer, then it's going to be hours. And while I don't have that much traffic that I have to worry, like, oh no, my audio program was not available for 0 subscribers or whatever, it's really more of a workflow test, because eventually I'd like to publish more different kinds of content. And I also want to make discovery a part of what I'm working on for the MuniBits project. So being familiar with this is good, useful for me. So my one vibe coding experience was trying to get, okay, so the one way is manually. 2, there's an API, the YouTube data API that you can use to mark videos, public, private, etc. So can do that. 3rd way, I don't have to get an API key and all that other silliness, but I can use Playwright or Selenium or something. So I'm like, oh, I've never used Playwright for anything. That's Playwright, as in you're writing a play. So I think it was Gemini. I said, hey, write me a Python script to use Playwright to do the thing. Check for videos in my studio console, list of videos and all that. Anything private, mark it as public. So okay, sure. Here it is. Didn't work. Not even close. So I'm like, hey, this didn't work. And it said, oh, good catch. Or, hey, that's brilliant. You're amazing. Or whatever it does. And said, okay, well, how about try this? Because it's probably, so it basically told me, oh, yeah, there is a potential problem with the method I suggested first. I'm like, why am I wasting my time on this? I should learn how this works. So it's still on my list of things to do, and it's pretty straightforward. In fact, I will probably start with the code gen option. So it basically watches your interactions with the website and codes those. And in that case, instead of going with some stupid vibe coded thing, it will be picking up the events that I use to engage with my studio page. And I can see, oh, okay, I captured my toggling from private to public. I can see how it finds, or I could just use the filter URL scheme and search for any private videos, etc. So it should be fairly straightforward. So when I saw that it happened twice with one of my channels this week, I was like, this is getting to be one of those things. Like, why am I not doing this to fix it? I want this to be automated and done. So hopefully that will be on my radar screen for this weekend. Speaking of radar screens, I don't know if you've heard of John Kiriakou, the former CIA agent, whistleblower, blew the whistle on the torture programs at Guantanamo and other renditions to Egypt and wherever. He's very personable, very interesting, but also kind of weird. Now, I'm not one of the people that's like, oh, you violated this, or you didn't, I think his conscience did what it did, and I think it was probably the right thing. And I know people have asked him, would you do it again? He's like, absolutely. Knowing what I know now and having gone through all this hassle and losing everything and all that. So I was like, okay, somebody with conviction, and it's actually, I think people were pretty much like, we're torturing people now. So I don't have a problem with that. But the big thing is like, former CIA agents are getting a lot of attention now. And I'm not going to say that John Kiriakou is like still working for the CIA. He will fly off the handle apparently. If you ask him, oh, isn't it once in the CIA, always in the CIA? And he's like, I fucking hate when people say that. Pardon my French. So, and I'm just going by his YouTube channel and whatnot. And I've actually backed off on watching so much of it because it's like, it starts to sound all the same. And the other thing, okay, so all these CIA agents, you got what's his name? Andrew Bustamante, you got John Kiriakou, and then there's several other ones. The guy that appears on Joe Rogan every once in a while. I don't watch Joe Rogan, but every once in a while a clip will be circulating. Like, former CIA agent says something dumb. So, but there's like maybe 6 or 8 former CIA agents with stories to tell. The thing I'm concerned about is that John Kiriakou, for example, and his friend, what's his name? What is his name? The Disinformation Podcast. John Kiriakou. What's his name? Jeff Tell or something? Jeff Tell? When was this? 5 months ago. Kiriakou was on Joe Rogan. So he has a friend who is a political cartoonist of some sort. And of course, there's no information here. So he has his friend, Jeff Tell or something like that. So they do a podcast every morning at 6 a.m. I'm like, I'm kind of tired of it. But he has no insight today because he's not in the CIA. So he may be hearing things from people. So what you end up with is the YouTube universe is a collection of people with various levels of access to insider or off the record or deep, what is it called? Deep background information. And is it Jeff? Deprogramming? Jeff Kiriakou, deprogramming. Ted Rall, Ted Rall, R-A-L-L. The show is called Deprogram, D-E-P-R-O-G-R-A-M. This is where it'd be interesting to have like a chat window or something where I would be capturing all this stuff and we could share a transcript like rundown on links and whatnot instead of doing them at the top of the show since I don't know what I'm going to look up on this program. Anyway, so they have these conversations and, I know a guy or I talked to someone. It's kind of like when you, there's a show called The Rest is Politics US with Anthony Scaramucci, who I find interesting, and Katty Kay, who's a British reporter who lives in America. She's very well known and has been around, and so I don't have a real problem with her, but there's just a lot of stuff that you only hear from reporters who are talking to people directly off the record. And then they tell you some version. So depending on which outlets you're consuming, you're either going to get something Joe Roganish, which is like, who knows where this came from. You're going to get something like The Rest is Politics, like, I'm an actual professional reporter with tons of years of contacts and experience in the DC area for American politics. You're going to get something like John Kiriakou. oh, I was a CIA agent 16 years ago, went to prison because of my whistleblowing, and now I know a bunch of people, and I'm here to make money to put money back in the bank because he lost everything. Okay, I can appreciate that, but you're like, okay, so it actually benefits you to be a little bit edgy, and they answer everybody's questions and whatnot, and they're getting too popular. There's Andrew Bustamante, which then Kiriaku's like, you know what? He told me he was never actually an operational whatever. He's something else. And so there's all this stuff that you really have to wonder who is telling which story and which stuff is to be believed. So there's just the CIA agents floating around. I guess the proper term. Let me back that up. If there's one thing I've learned, they are not agents. Agents are the people that they get to do things for them. The people that work at CIA are called officers. So an officer might engage with an agent to say, hey, get me some information from your workplace. Okay. So there's that, and there's who's telling what story, background, deep background, off the record. Why am I hearing different versions of things from different kinds of people? It's just crazy. So I think, yeah, we're going to be going through an evolution of news reporting over the next 2-3 years. It could be freedom of speech issues that will have to be worked around. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. Anyway, you can hear that I'm kind of trying to be quiet because it is 12:24 in the morning. Normally I'm not too crazy with that because I don't know that people can hear me speaking, and I don't want to, disrupt anyone's slumber, but it just sounds loud to me speaking when there's no other noise. There's not, there's just nothing's going on. It's pretty silent. So I sound louder to me. So I've been speaking a little bit more quietly. I do boost up the loudness. I normalize loudness to -23 LUFS. And then I apply a noise filter to reduce. I'm pretty sure my microphone picks up my computer fan, but then any other noise, there'll be a little kind of a shh, and I don't know if you can hear that because it'll be filtered out, but it's kind of like a white noise-ish. It's not too bad, but when you apply the noise filter, it's so much cleaner. You're like, whoa, that sounds like studio with noise cancellation or noise dampening. Maybe both. I'm like, oh, it's too easy to do that. And then I truncate silence, so any of my longer pauses will be reduced significantly. I think I have it set to anything longer than 0.7 seconds will get removed. So the longest pauses should be 0.7 seconds or less. There are some parts where I think it will sound like there's a cut because it's cutting out silence, but the silence on either end of the silence might have had some slightly more quiet, like movement or breathing or something. So the quieter part will remain. So there'll be 0.7 seconds, but it will be like, and then an inhale, but that'll get cut off, and then silence because the louder part got removed. So a little fun fact. Anyway, anything else? I don't know. I think that's probably good. I wanted to make sure I need to start doing, for myself, I need to start doing a couple of episodes of this per week. And I say for myself because I really want to get my workflow to be not necessarily more consistent, but more flexible. I need to be, like, if I'm not doing one thing, I should try to find something else productive to do instead of, I can just go take a nap. I mean, if I need to take a nap, that's fine. But I would rather not get stuck in I'll do it tomorrow. So I have my scheduled programs on a better schedule, hence the name. But I managed to get each episode out on the day of. I think once last month, maybe, I recorded an episode of something really later in the evening. It really should come out in the morning, same day. So I think it really works out better for me to at least write the show the night before, if possible, record it, and then set it for auto publish, like scheduled publish. That works out really well. So I'm really trying to get back into that. But in order to do that, I have to be more flexible with how I allocate my time for content creation between writing and then actually producing and publishing, right? So I should be flexible enough to insert 1 or 2 episodes of the Coffee Solo program rather than saying, I'll just wait until Sunday. right? So I'm trying to increase my level of my nimble rating. I should be able to say, oh, I'm going to create an episode of whatever right now because I have the time, my voice is working, my sinuses are not blowing up. There's not a lot of noise. Every once in a while, there'll be tons of noise going on from my muse upstairs. Gets on my nerves. And so you're like, and I don't know that my microphone picks it up, but I pick it up. And so it's distracting and frustrating. So I'm like, it's better to do it either earlier in the morning or sometime in the afternoon. I don't know when that person is there. They seem to be there too much. But anyway, I really I got to get rid of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is such a disappointment. I think it's actually like I hesitate to use this. It's like a mental health issue, right? I had a friend who was from Ukraine, pardon me. Her mom was Ukrainian and her dad was Russian. I assume they still are. I hope they're still around. So she said to them one time that I'm going to see a therapist or something. And they were like, why you need therapy? Right. So they had this like tough Russian / Ukrainian attitude about things. You would never admit you're wrong about, whatever. Right. So it's not quite like that, but I'm like, I don't know. It's not a mental health thing, but LinkedIn is such a disappointment and such a waste of time. And it gives such a false impression of connection because I connected with my city council person on LinkedIn. Like she connected the same day. It was on the weekend, I think, many weeks ago. I'm like, oh, how funny. Cause she's not like very outgoing. I've been to 2 of her meetups. She'll do a little community meetup every once in a while. And I was like, okay, that was a waste of time. But I figured, let me invite her to follow the page. And if she does, maybe I'll have a conversation about how can we get the city council to make an announcement or what's the best. She does not care. She followed nothing. She responded to none of my outreach, direct messaging and emailing. I'm like, wow, this really is Vegas. Vegas really does not care as a population. So it's getting a little bit old, but my plan is to do the My Muni platform or the MuniBits platform that will manifest as the commercializable and hopefully monetizable in Las Vegas platform for better information sharing. I mentioned the Google Earth example. So I really want to get that going so I don't have to be beholden to LinkedIn and the local media. The local media does not care at all. It boggles the mind. So, but everybody here who I try to reach out to, you get nothing. And I don't understand how people believe that this is the next Silicon Valley or a global innovation hub. Like, you know what, guys? You should respond to people. Just because I don't know that person, therefore they couldn't possibly have good ideas, right? I think that's the general take home is that if you're not in my friend group already, then I don't know you. I don't trust you. I'm not going to listen to you. And you're like, what if somebody with a big giant invention is going to come in here and say, hey, does anybody want to be in on this? And if everybody's like, oh no, I didn't respond because I didn't know who that was. Then at some point you're going to be like, oh wait, we don't help each other. We don't care. Why is this not a successful city as a startup or startup community or whatever? Pick your favorite words. Because you guys don't know how to communicate and you don't know how to foster innovation. So anyway, I would tell you that I could go on about that for hours, but I do go on about that for hours in the Cafe Genius Impresario's audio program. The Friday episode from yesterday sometime, now that it's Saturday, was literally community versus ecosystem because people literally use those words interchangeably, but they're explicitly not. So I talked about that for like, how long was that? 40 minutes or something? How long was that? I'll tell you, and then we can be done. So Cafe Genius Impresarios, you can find links to that on the buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo profile page, Cafe Genius. You can find it on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, YouTube. There's an RSS feed. How can you go wrong? Community versus ecosystem, 1 hour and 8 minutes, 68 minutes of your listening pleasure. So yeah, give that a listen. Ecosystem is not the same as community. There you go. All right, I'm going to call it a night, or I'm going to call it a morning anyway. 12:33 in the morning. Probably, I'm going to guess something like 5 minutes will get cut out from the truncate silence. So I'm going to guess, and I could be wrong, I'm going to guess it's going to be 1 hour and 18 minutes, 1 hour and 19 minutes. Just a guess. Thanks for listening as always. Be sure and check out all my various other audio programming, making the world a better place, one word at a time. Take care now. Bye-bye.